Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. And it is a very special stream indeed, as we are live across platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble, on Getter, on Locals. So pumped to be here with all of you guys and to be sharing a project that I've spent the last several months working very hard to bring to life. As you all know, last September, I was incredibly fortunate to take my first trip ever to the Holy Land with Turning Point USA to learn more about the nation of Israel and how the world is getting the image and story of Israel wrong. I was so compelled by this trip in September that I talked to my supervisors at TPUSA at the time and ended up returning to Israel about 8 weeks later exactly to shoot and direct and star in a documentary unveiling and peeling back this narrative that Western media is perpetrating against Israel, not telling the entire story of the beautiful city of Jerusalem in particular. How America views Jerusalem is not the whole story. This ancient, beautiful, complicated city is not the epicenter of chaos and violence and anger the way the world wants us to believe that it is. But maybe it's more than that. Maybe as the rest of the world continues to delve into chaos never before seen by all of humanity, maybe Jerusalem is the eye of that storm, giving us a window into what it would look like if we were able to live in harmony and the non-cheesy bumper sticker version of true coexistence in the modern world. We've spent many months working on this project, and I'm incredibly excited to be bringing it to you today on our live stream, live right now. So if you haven't already, pop yourself a bag of popcorn, sit back, and I hope you will enjoy my first ever documentary that I have directed and starred in, The Eye of the Storm. Stick around after the film for an exclusive Q&A, which we will be doing in our Locals community. I will drop the link in our live chat to make sure you guys know where to go. Most of you have already been joining us over on Locals for the past couple of weeks, which is super exciting, but we will do a Q&A about the film, everything that I learned in Israel, and some key takeaways that I want you to take from watching the documentary right afterwards. Happy watching! Jerusalem, one of the oldest cities on Earth, and historically the center of the world's crossings between north, south, east, and west, the meeting point of the world's cultures, languages, religions, and walks of life, portrayed as the world's epicenter of conflict, chaos, and violence. What if Jerusalem isn't the world's battleground, stirring conflict that spreads all over the globe? What if that's not the whole story? What if Jerusalem is the eye of the storm? Perhaps no other narrative in modern culture is more one-sided than that of Israel's cultural identity. Global media, education, entertainment, politics, and more portray Israel and its capital city of Jerusalem as a hotbed of vitriolic violence, of chaos, of oppression. Israel is condemned and attacked from every direction for being a perpetrator of violence, for instituting an alleged apartheid state, and for being an actor of evil in the modern world.
We're not saying that Israel is perfect. We're not saying that it's heaven to be here. No. And we're not saying that there is no racism or discrimination. Just like in any other society and like in any other country, unfortunately, bad things exist, including discriminations and racism. But it's not systematic. It's individual. And in fact, there are clear laws against discrimination, against anti-Semitism, and against racism. And that's why all what we want to do is to share the reality of our life. Because in the media and on the social media, you'd see that there's a huge gap between the reality to what they say. Our job, as much as possible, to just show the truth about the Israeli society, Arabs and Jews.
College campuses, social media feeds, and news broadcasts alike echo the sentiments of the Free Palestine movement, the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction, or BDS movement, and anti-Zionists. Almost every time I open my phone, I come across a one-sided, propaganda-style headline about Israel and/or the city of Jerusalem.
So a lot of what I do in my work is bringing people together in the city and creating a shared society rather than a divided city. It's not really a divided city. People keep talking about Jerusalem as a divided city. But I think if you walk around anywhere in Jerusalem, you see Jews, Arabs, Christians, you see people from all walks of life, tourists, locals. And so the impression that people who have not our best interests at heart want to give that it's a divided city, but this city is actually more united than ever. Go to any gym, any park, any cafe, and you see a huge variety of people. And what I work very hard to do in my work is to create opportunities for a shared society. I'm doing that culturally, we're doing that in business and high tech, we're doing that in academics, we're doing that every single arena that we can find, creating spaces that encourage shared society.
Meanwhile, the world sees visual images of the city of Jerusalem and expects it to be a war-torn, devastated, crumbling shell of a city. We are given an image of a city where neighbors physically harm one another, where city streets are constantly bombing sites.
Israeli police used stun grenades and water cannon on Palestinian youths as clashes erupted outside the Old City in Jerusalem on Saturday. Tensions have been mounting in the city throughout the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
Violence erupted at one of Jerusalem's holiest sites today. Officials say more than 150 Palestinians were injured after fighting with Israeli security forces. It happened at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the Old City. This video shows men throwing stones and other objects at the Israeli riot police. The clashes come on the first day of a rare overlap of three major religious holidays: Ramadan, Passover, and Easter.
Israeli police went into the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, firing stun grenades and tear gas. The Palestinian Red Crescent said that more than 150 people are injured. A field hospital was set up inside the compound to treat them. 8 policemen were also wounded.
The number of people killed in a shooting and stabbing attack in Jerusalem has risen to 3.
And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called for an emergency meeting of his security cabinet following the attacks. This all started this morning when 2 Palestinian men boarded a bus in Jerusalem and began shooting and stabbing passengers. In another attack, a man rammed a car into a bus station before stabbing bystanders. 3 people have now been killed and 20 others were wounded.
Of course, these things do happen, especially in a city as diverse and complicated as Jerusalem. We're talking about a city with literally thousands of years of human history, with countless layers of civilization, with unique neighborhoods home to dramatically different religions and walks of life, between the different quarters of the Old City and the dichotomy of East versus West Jerusalem.
I find all Jerusalem is Jerusalem. I don't like to see the division East and West, and I'm working hard to make it just Jerusalem.
When you face that realization, alongside the fact that Israel has formally been a nation only for 75 years, there's bound to be division and violence within a city of 1 million people.
not to mention Israel's geographic neighborhood within the conflict-torn Middle East. Religious factions fight against one another. Races fight against one another. People fight against one another. That's true in the Middle East, and specifically is true in Jerusalem. But it's also a convenient reality to latch onto, to continue dividing people based on our differences all over the world.
So I think conflict and violence is a small part of human expression, which is at the end of the scale. And the day-to-day life, people from all backgrounds, they talk, they do business, they meet each other, they play, their kids play together in the park. Violence and the conflict are here, but they're a small part of the day-to-day life. And I think that with community and cultural initiatives, people can find expression in other means other than violence and conflict.
In the United States currently, largely because of the media and pervasive narratives that only tell a small fraction of the full truth, we live in perhaps the most divided time in our nation's history, because all of the information of the world is a click away at our fingertips with the digital age that we live in. And I think the media is learning that that has been so successful, that narrative of conflict and division and making an other of a different group of people rather than finding common ground and finding humanity in one another, that they're starting to replicate that all over the world. And so it's becoming important not just for American media to divide Americans, but for American media to divide the world against one another and tell an incomplete reality of what life is like and what common values could be and what shared human experiences are between people on one side of the world and the other side of the world.
Most Palestinians see the Israelis as a soldier in the uniform.
Yeah.
And most of the Israelis see the Palestinian as a terrorist on the news, unfortunately. And we need to change this. We need to show them the people, the good people on each side.
Contrary to what modern culture is leading you to believe, this violence and conflict is really only a small fraction of what day-to-day life in this magnificent place is actually like.
If you're not from here, you tend to want to make conflict part of your narrative.
The first time I visited Jerusalem myself, I was prepared for an unsafe, bustling, chaotic city where I would likely feel the need to constantly look over my shoulder. What I actually experienced on the ground shook me to my very core in the opposite direction than I anticipated. Unlike walking around any major American city, I felt safe walking around the old city of Jerusalem at night. I witnessed priests walking side by side in the morning with rabbis and imams, saw Orthodox Jews crossing the street with women wearing hijabs.
If you've been in El Salvador, if you've been in Ecuador, you know that that's hardcore, that's ghetto shit. And when you come here and you see those type of political stuff that happen once in a while, and you're like, okay, that doesn't happen every day. You don't see shooting everywhere, every stuff. So for a person that already been into those places and know how the hell it is, I don't want to say that from a ghetto, but you know how things outside are there, and then you come here and it's different. It's not something that happens every day.
In terms of our numbers, Jerusalem is one of the safest capital cities in the world. If you look at any capital city in America, for example, you'll see that the crime in percentages even is way higher than it is in Jerusalem. So let's take things in their rightful proportion. The problem in Jerusalem is that when there is violence or terrorism, it makes the international news, because everything you do in the city becomes international news.
You can identify perhaps with a certain issue or with a certain people group, and you can use that in politics, perhaps to get your way, get funding, which is rather annoying. It's best not to try and tell us how to engage in peace. We're actually probably better at it than anybody else.
I believe the media today more than ever, in a competing world of media, is looking for the headlines. And the headlines is never from good news or any of my projects of peace and coexistence. The headlines is always going to be in the violence, in the crises. And so, of course, every time there is some type of attack in the city, it creates international news headlines, which in turn creates an impression that Jerusalem is a violent city, which is really very far from the truth. I understand why these things make the headlines. What I would ask from foreign news media is to actually provide a balance of the real Jerusalem, which is the everyday peace and collaboration that we have between Arabs and Jews and Christians, between people from all walks of life, between immigrants and veterans. There's many great stories of bridge building going on in Jerusalem, and unfortunately, it's not part of the news.
There is nothing more surprising than setting foot in this ancient city and getting to know its unique, inspiring people. So we set out to do it ourselves. Razzouk Tattoo is the oldest tattoo shop in the entire world and has been operational since the year 1300, when they began giving Christian pilgrimage tattoos to people visiting the Holy City. Today, the Razzouk family continues the legacy of their family business with Wasim Razzouk, the 27th generation of his family and his sons. So you're in the process of tattooing some Christian pilgrims to the Holy Land. You guys are the 28th generation of your family keeping this business alive. What started this journey for your family?
My family came from Egypt, and in Egypt the Christian Copts get a small tattoo of a cross on their wrist, almost like the one I'm doing here. And it looks like this. That's the Coptic cross, where Copts would get it to mark themselves as Christians, and this way they can know themselves, enter churches just by showing their tattoo. And so 500 years ago, my family came from Egypt to the Holy Land on pilgrimage, and they discovered that there was a tradition of tattooing pilgrims with a cross as a certificate of pilgrimage, just like a stamp on their body. So when they go back home, they can show off the pilgrimage, the new status that they have become. This is a tradition that is more than 1,000 years old. But when we came here, we discovered this tradition, and because this was our profession back in Egypt, when my family brought their tools with them, they started doing tattoos for pilgrims as well. And since then until today, we're still doing the same tradition. There were other tattooists who were doing this in the Holy Land, but we are the only family that has continued to do this. So we consider ourselves to be the custodians of this tradition, and for that reason, people come from all over the world to get tattooed here, because we keep the tradition, and also the pilgrims keep the tradition, so it's a mutual thing.
Jerusalem's deputy mayor and a voice of advocacy for Israel in the Middle East is Flor Hassan. Growing up all over the world, Flor has developed a unique leadership and policy style dedicated to bringing people from all different walks of life together.
The first time I came to Israel, I was 14 years old. I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with the idea of self-determination for the Jewish people after 2,000 odd years in exile. And so from that moment on, I knew that I would come and live here at some point. I came here because of ideology, because I'm a Zionist, because I believe in the self-determination of the Jewish people in our ancestral homeland. And it's really miracle era that we're living in. And I really wanted to be a part of that common destiny of the Jewish people in our own land. And so I never, deliberately thought I was going to go into politics. But an opportunity presented itself for me to run for city council. And I really believe that when God opens a door, then it's our obligation to walk through it and to step up to the plate. And, this is a wonderful city with a lot of challenges, and I thought that maybe I could be one of the people trying to solve those challenges and creating a better shared society in Jerusalem.
Reverend Aaron Eam is a deacon at Christ Church Jerusalem, the oldest Protestant church in the Middle East. His journey to the city of Jerusalem is like many others, sparked by a pilgrimage to deepen his own faith.
I'm from Australia originally. I didn't hear the voice of heaven say, Aaron, go to Jerusalem. I actually was working and running a pub in London. That was my former career. And I hopped in a camper van and I drove here. And, I went through something like 23 different countries to get.
23?
Yeah, drove all the way down to Morocco, then back up and all the way across over to Turkey and then down. This is in 1998 when it was quite a different world. There was no ISIS, there were tensions around the world, there always are, but the borders had dropped. It was actually quite easy to travel. So I experienced lots of different places and ended up driving into Israel in 1998 and then never left. Israel is definitely an immigrant nation and Jerusalem just as much so. And so a lot of the communities that are here, including the Protestant one, we're a group of immigrants. And that gives us an incredible wide diversity that not only just languages, but food groups, dress sense, how you read your Bible. And this plays out in just about every aspect of life.
Life in Jerusalem isn't always just about finding the deeper meaning. Sometimes it's about fun. Paola Ruloba is the founder of Jerusalem Skater Girls, a group where young girls from all backgrounds come together for one reason: to shred.
Originally, I am from Panama, the city of Panama City. I came here because of my mom's job, and we fell in love with Israel, and we stay here. Our group is Jerusalem Skater Girls. We didn't know how it's gonna be in the end and we just knew that we need a group.
Yeah, and obviously now things are very different. There are many girls skating behind us. What was the response like right away, and how have people continued to grow the organization?
Well, thanks to the Jerusalem municipality that they built this skate park with the help of one of our skaters, Noam Rifkin, it gives more awareness of the skateboarding in general. And when we come here as a group, even if it's a small group, there are parents that they just see us and they say, oh, I want my daughter also to skate.
Yeah.
When I came here, I didn't know anything about Israel. We just knew that they speak Hebrew, Arabic, and English. But when I go to the market, I see everybody's mixed. When I go to the doctor, I see everybody's mixed. When you go to the bus, when they're going, everybody's like, they're just coexisting just because they need. And when we opened the group, for me it was so obvious that we're gonna have so many people from different backgrounds. Myself, I'm from Latin America, and there's other girls that come from the West Bank, or they're Americans, or they're Russians, or they're Germans. For me, it was so obvious that that's how the group is gonna look, because Israel in general looks like that. But then people start asking, wow, your girls are from different backgrounds and stuff. Like, yes, it's obvious. But that's what makes the group stronger.
Father Peter Vasco is a Brooklyn-raised Catholic priest who today calls Jerusalem home. His role as president of the Franciscan Foundation for the Holy Land means he works daily to maintain the Christian community in Israel.
Well, I'm a Brooklyn boy from New York, and I've been here in the Holy Land 36 years. I am president of the Franciscan Foundation for the Holy Land, which is an entity that helps stem the Christian exodus from Israel and from Palestine. And so I go twice a year to the United States to raise awareness and funding towards that regard. Yeah.
As a religious leader in this city, what is your relationship like with rabbis and imams on a day-by-day basis?
The Franciscans have opened up our doors to Hebrew University. We talk about the history of the Catholic Church. They have a tour of our monastery, etc. That has become so popular that now we're offering to senior citizens, Israeli citizens, to come in, and they are really interested because, you know, coming into a Catholic church, they've never been in one of their own. We're trying to, you know, create that comradeship, that understanding. We, you know, we're all Christians no matter what. Jesus is our Lord and Savior. For the Muslims, what we do for them is at Ramadan, we have an event where we feed 200 Muslim people during that time as a sign of respect for them. We have a relationship there. It's not just they're over here and we're over here. We have a rapport, and we have a very good rapport.
Interestingly, that's the story that is told, particularly to Americans, as I'm sure you're familiar with, about this city, though, that some people are over here, others are over here, and that there's consistent conflict and violence and misunderstanding between different groups of people here. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because of political and economic situations that we have the cycle of violence. Both the Jewish people, Jewish nation, and the Palestinian Authority claim this is their land, okay? And the sad thing about it is sometimes that they spread their distrust of each other to their children's children, that it becomes embedded in the psychological DNA of both sides. And will there ever be peace? There are tons of people on all sides who have relationships with the three groupings. There are some people who don't. Some don't want to have any part of it. But I think they're in the minority in this country. I've been here 36 years, and I've seen that. So you're going to have a small group who are against the situation, but the majority of people are open to openness and humanism and in that area. So I feel very comfortable living in the city with the Muslims and with the Israeli people, Jewish people.
That's such an incredible message, because I feel that the very small minority situations of extreme conflict really become 100% of the story to Americans and to other people around the world.
They take that one part, the violent part. Media hones in on the crimes. They never hone in on the good stories of good people who are doing good for other people.
Yeah.
So it's the same all over the world, I think. And that's unfortunately the media situation. And we have the same thing here in this country, which can be volatile, but there's, I think, many more people, the majority of people are for peace and trying to work with each other.
What message would you have for the average global citizen who doesn't know that that is the reality here?
I think I would ask them to come and see for themselves, okay? Come to the Holy Land, whether you're of the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, the Muslim faith. Come to those holy sites that you have in your religion, your foundations of your religion, and then start talking to people. What I do with my pilgrims is that I have a town dialogue where I have the young Christians who are now attorneys, bankers, to tell of their situation to fellow Christians, etc. Sometimes I invite some Jewish people to be there, etc., etc. So I think we have to be really ecumenical, and I would really encourage them to come and seek the Lord and walk in those steps that their religion calls holy.
My name is Adnan Jaber. I'm from Jerusalem, originally East Jerusalem. I speak Arabic, English, and almost Hebrew. And I studied in a Palestinian school in East Jerusalem, Arabic, Islam as a background. And my father owns a small electronic shop, so he used to sell PlayStations. And I used to be this lucky kid who's having the newest game to play with. And I ended up studying technology in the university and working in it today.
You work with an organization called To Peace. What is that?
Right. Tech to Peace is an organization that brings Palestinians and Israelis to learn tech together and dialogue with each other. We try to pull them with technology, which is very important. We give them very valuable skill.
Yeah.
And we try just to tell them, talk to each other. We're not having any propaganda, we're not having an agenda. Just talk to each other and listen to each other and see the different narratives and get some hope. And that's what we're aspiring for.
What are some ways in your personal life, maybe, that you've gone above and beyond in connecting with different types of people?
I have a Jewish girlfriend myself. I live with her in the same house. Many people thought that it's impossible. No, it's possible. It's working. And I love her a lot. She loves me too, I hope. Mostly were shocked, rejective to the idea. They were afraid of what people say about me. When my family met my partner more and more, they saw the human in her. And then they started loving her. And what are our children going to be like? I think they're going to be epic. They're going to learn Arabic, Hebrew, and English. And they're going to be learning Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and they choose whatever they want to be.
So welcome to the Mifal. This is one of the venues that we started in our NGO. We're a Jerusalem-based artist-led initiative. We have about 50 cultural projects in Jerusalem. We have 3 venues, this is one of them. And we have orchestras and theater and online magazines and several labels and podcasts, several projects.
Something that I love about this space and your NGO in particular is that it is so sensitive to bringing different types of people together. There's an intention behind that in this very multicultural city. Even geographically, we are right near the line geographically between West and East Jerusalem. What does that look like here in Hamifal on a day-by-day basis?
Well, first of all, Jerusalem is a very eclectic city, so you can't almost do anything here without taking into account the surroundings and the people around it. As you said, this is on the seam line between East and West Jerusalem, so people who pass through are from various backgrounds and cultures, and actually they can meet here and talk and have coffee and appreciate art also, right? Art, we believe that art connects where politics divide. So instead of coming and fighting over whatever political or current affairs, they can appreciate a musical performance or an art piece together.
Perhaps the most powerful stereotype about Israel is that it's a Jewish-only nation, and that Arabs cannot call themselves Israelis. Content creator, speaker, and activist Yosef Haddad is working to dispel the narrative, fiercely defending Israel as an Arab.
I was born in Haifa, which is the largest mixed city in Israel. Raised in Nazareth, which is the largest Arab city in Israel. I'm an Arab-Israeli Christian. And today, I'm a journalist. I'm also the CEO of an NGO called Together Vouch for Each Other, which is an Arab-Israeli organization that works to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs and to integrate the Israeli society, Arab-Israeli society, into the Israeli society. And also, as minorities, we go outside and we speak and say the reality that's happened here in Israel. Regarding the Israel and whether the Arabs should be part of it or it's just only for Jews, I'd say it's for Israelis. And when we talk about Israelis, the Israeli society is composed from Arabs and Jews. 20% of the population are Arab Israelis, Christians, Muslims, Druze, Bedouin. And it is very important for everyone to understand that you cannot disconnect the Arab Israelis from the Israeli society. Yes, Israel is a Jewish and democratic state. But in the democratic state, the state of Israel, 20% of the population are Arabs. Don't forget that. And it's important to understand that when the Israeli society and when the state of Israel is strong, it means all the tapestry of the Israeli society are strong and united. Therefore, you cannot disconnect it. That's why, as an Arab Israeli, and that's why, as an Arab Israeli organization, we will do whatever it takes to defend our country. Talking about the life as an Arab in Israel, I've already mentioned it a couple of times, and I said that, yes, not everything is perfect here. But let me just give you some of the facts that people might not know about the Arab Israelis. We are 20% of the population, but we are 30% of the doctors in Israel. We are 50% of the pharmacists in Israel. A lot of people talking about the Arab Israelis living under apartheid regime, just like in South Africa. Many human rights organizations claims that, such as Amnesty International, that they say that we live under apartheid, that I live under apartheid regime. That yet they forget that it's not even close to be what's going on in South Africa. There is responsibility on the government and on Israel, but also there is a responsibility, huge responsibility in our leaders, the Arab leaders, who time after time neglect the Arab society, focusing on the Palestinian issues and not on us. Earning money, their salary, paid by our taxes, yet they don't work for us. They don't have even one big achievement for our society. Therefore, we need to work together, Jews and Arabs, to make our life better here. It's possible.
One of the most iconic locations within the Old City is the Western Wall, often called the Wailing Wall, where Jews from all over the globe come to pray and reconnect to the original site of the temple. In Jerusalem, we connected with Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovich to discuss the importance of this holy site and what it means for Israel. Can you tell us what is below us and what the significance of this place is?
הכותל המערבי הוא מקום קדוש לעם היהודי. לפי המסורת שלנו, כל התפילות עולות דרך המקום הזה. כשיעקב אבינו חולם את החלום, הוא מגלה שפה זה שער השמיים. לכן כל בתי הכנסת, בכל מקום שבעולם, הכיוון שמתפללים זה לכאן. אבל לא רק ליהודים, כל אחד יכול להתפלל במקום הזה. כששלמה המלך מקים את בית המקדש, הוא מבקש שכל תפילה שתהיה לאדם, בין אם הוא יהודי ובין אם הוא לא יהודי, בין אם מגיע לו, בין אם לא מגיע לו, שלוקים בשמת התפילה שלו.
What does it mean to you for the Western Wall to be a place of prayer for all nations, from people all over the world?
כיוון ששלמה המלך נתן למקום הזה כוח, לפי הבקשה שלו מבורא עולם, שהמקום הזה יהיה מקום מסוגל לתפילה לכל אחד, כי הוא ידע שלנו אין מונופול על אלוקים. אלוקים שייך לכולם. הוא שייך ליהודים ולשאינם יהודים. ולכן המקום הזה הוא מקום שמסוגל לתפילה. יש אנשים שחושבים שיש להם מונופול על אלוקים, אבל אין לאף אחד מונופול על אלוקים. אני חושב שמקום קדוש צריך להיות מקום של שלום. כל אחד יכול לבוא להתפלל ולהגיע אל המקום הזה מתוך שלום ומתוך ביטחון. אבא שלי נולד לא רחוק מהמקום הזה, ובשנת 48 גירשו אותו מכאן, כשהוא היה בן 4, והוא חזר לכאן ב-67, ואנחנו אפשרנו לכל אחד להגיע למקום, יהודים, נוצרים, מוסלמים. אני חושב שאנחנו מבטאים סמל של שלום, כך צריך להיות בכל מקום קדוש הוא. מקום פתוח לכל אחד, אני מתפלל כאן מול המקום הזה, כמו שאנחנו מתפללים כל יום. יהודי מתפלל 3 פעמים ביום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חיים, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל העולם כולו. שלכולם יהיה שלום, ברכה, ביטחון, ושהמקום הזה באמת יביא בכנפיו בשורה לעולם כולו.
What is your message to people from around the world who may think that this is an area only of conflict and anger and violence, when in reality there are many people below us living in peace today?
העיר העתיקה בכלל הוא מקום שכמעט ואין בו קונפליקטים. גרים פה בצפיפות יהודים ומוסלמים ונוצרים. אני לא חושב שיש מקום בעולם שגרים אחד ליד השני, אנשים שלמעשה מנוגדים בהשקפות עולם ובדת שלהם, והם גרים ביחד, ואין פה כמעט קונפליקטים, בגלל ההבנה שהמקום הזה צריך להיות מקום של סמל ומקום של קודש. אם יש גורמים שגורמים לאיזשהו מתחים, זה אנשים שבאים מבחוץ, אנשים שרוצים להפריע, אנשים שלא אוהבים לראות את הדבר הזה. אבל כמו שאת רואה גם עכשיו, באים לפה מיליונים של אנשים, 12 מיליון אנשים בשנה רק אל הכותל המערבי, והם מבטאים את זה שהתפיסת העולם והמחשבה הזאת, כאילו המקום הזה הוא מקום של קונפליקט, המקום הזה הוא לא מקום של שלום, הוא איננו נכון. והעדות היא אותם אנשים.
you shouldn't put a lack of hope on this city. This is actually the reverse. This is actually a model that you can actually turn around and say, there is hope. It can get better. It's not the end. And don't always look at darkness, because if you keep looking at that, you've missed the light.
Where can the rest of the world take a page out of that playbook for peace and hope?
They should visit. I think pilgrimage should be on everybody's book, and you should come to Israel and meet as much of the locals as you can. That's all of them. So that includes your Jewish communities, secular religious. That includes the Muslims, and there's a variety of them here too. Visit the Orthodox and the Armenians and see their story, and just ask lots of questions.
Do you have a message of encouragement for dialogue, particularly for people living in extremely conflicted and divisive areas like the United States today?
Don't stop talking to each other. We've been told by Jesus to love our enemies. That doesn't mean you don't have enemies, but that to approach somebody in love, not hatred, to say, hey, we need to talk. And food in the Middle East is a really big deal. And King David says, you have prepared a table for me in the presence of my enemies. It's when you sit around a table, get some food out, start eating, start dialoguing. You might sit down as an enemy, but then during the occasion, you might realize there's actually something in you that I like. And I actually might rise up as a friend. And that's a very powerful thing that can happen here. It has happened here, and I think it will happen here in the future, as long as we keep talking.
One of the challenges that remains at the forefront of sharing Jerusalem's message of unity is the consistent struggle between Israel and the terrorist groups seeking to destroy the nation entirely. Impacting Israel's safety more than perhaps any other group on earth is Hamas, the radical terrorist organization who has seized power in the Gaza Strip, consistently attacking Israel's Jews, Arab Muslims, and Christians alike. Hezbollah, another terrorist organization rooted in Lebanon and supported and funded by radical regimes like Iran, commits acts of terrorism against Israel from the north.
The IDF stands for Israel Defense Forces. It's not the JDF. It's not the Jewish Defense Forces. When the IDF protects Israel, the IDF protects all the citizens of Israel, Arabs and Jews. And when Hamas and Hezbollah and the Islamic Jihad and other terrorist organizations attack Israel, they attack all the citizens of Israel. You know, I participated in the Second Lebanon War. One of my friends from Nazareth asked me when he realized that I'm entering Lebanon to fight. He asked me a question. He told me, Yusuf, how do you feel going into Lebanon and fight your Arab brothers? I said, I'm not fighting my Arab brothers. I'm fighting the terrorist organization Hezbollah. This is how the conversation ended. During the Second Lebanon War, I lost 7 of my friends, 3 of my commanders and 1 of my soldiers. And then 4 days before ceasefire, I was injured badly when Hezbollah ambushed my unit, and they launched a rocket towards our force. And from that explosion, I was injured badly and ended up for a full year in rehabilitation. During that time, my friend who asked me this question, he came and visited me in the hospital. He didn't even say hello. He didn't say, get well, how are you? The first sentence that he told me, or he said, it was, I understand. And the reason why he said that is because during the Second Lebanon War, not many people know that, 44 Israeli civilians were killed by Hezbollah rockets. Half of the civilians, half of the casualties were Arab Muslims. On my city, Nazareth, the largest Arab city in Israel, rockets killed babies, injured dozens. When I was inside Lebanon, I wasn't protecting the Jewish society. I was protecting the Israeli society, both Arabs and Jews. I was protecting my country. against terrorist organization. And that's why I decided to volunteer to the IDF and serve. And I am very proud that I took this decision. And if you put me back 2003 and ask me would I have taken the same decision, I would tell you absolutely yes.
I'm not Jewish, but my family was born here. My kids were all born here. And so my son's now in the IDF. And even though he's not Jewish, he, as they say in Hebrew, Ein lo eretz acheret. He doesn't know any other land. So this is his home, and he wanted to defend it, just like his friends did. He got in, and when he went to his swearing-in service, he was the only person to receive a New Testament. The army gave him a gun and a New Testament and said, with these two weapons, you'll defend Israel. But at the same time, in the same service, 8 people were given Qurans.
Wow.
And the rest were given either a Tanakh or a little piece of paper called the Spirit of the IDF or something like that.
We are currently being told that through the media, culturally, politically, just in day-to-day life, it is evil for us to associate with, communicate with, or have dialogue with people who are different from us, people who look different from us, people who may practice different religions than us, certainly people who vote differently or politically believe in different values than we do. And it's part of the reason that America is so unbelievably deeply divided. The verbiage and the word choice that is used in America, specifically in the media, to describe people who are different from us is shockingly dehumanizing one another. And we've seen that pattern repeated throughout history. What I love about the story of this country being so new and so forward-thinking is that even in the midst of that darkness, even in the midst of coming out of a generation that was truly dehumanized, treated as insects, put through the worst human experience and human torture ever known to man. Even coming out of that, the city of Jerusalem and the nation of Israel has figured out a way to build a home for so many different people. They've welcomed people from all over the world to make their nation, the nation of Israel. You have people who practice Judaism, Christianity, and Islam living side by side in a very small geographical area that nod to one another and smile at each other on the street. If you could use one word to describe the city of Jerusalem and what it means to you, to the rest of the world, what would that word be and why?
Holy, holy, holy. Because all I see around us are holy places of the 3 religions, and it's a holy city.
Well, we don't have to look further than Jerusalem as the name. What does Jerusalem, the name, mean? In Hebrew, Yerushalem, you will see Shalem. Shalem is completeness, it's peace. And that is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the city where all solutions to world peace will come from. Jerusalem is completeness. So that's what we're working hard to do here.
It would be the Garden of Eden. Jannat Adan in Arabic, Gan Eden in Hebrew. My name is Adnan, and the meaning of Adnan is the person from Gan Eden. And I believe Jerusalem is the Garden of Eden. And I wish this place become the place where everyone lives equal and safe.
For me, it's easy. For me, it's home. Because I was born and raised in Jerusalem, and it's an interesting place, and so far it's been an interesting ride. You can spend, I think, a few lifetimes here without definitely knowing what's going on, like, to the end of it. But for me, it's home.
I would say it's a gateway. And I think this is a gateway to a lot of things. I think it's the gateway to the kingdom of heaven. It's a gateway to being actually finding peace in the Middle East. The peace of Jerusalem, that should be able to be brought and shared to all parts of the world. It's a gateway to light that was supposed to go around to the world and offer salvation to the world. I think this is a place where you come and you enter the gateway, and when you leave, you leave changed.
ירושלים היא קדושה, היא הלב שלנו, היא לב אצלי מונחת בתוך הלב, כמו שאומר הנביא, דברו על לב ירושלים וקראו אליה.
An international place, a place for everybody. This is what I would describe it. I would love to see it this way. like a city for all people in the world and not only for somebody. Jerusalem does not belong to anyone. Jerusalem is for the world. This is what it is.
Less is more. They're making a big deal of what's going on over here. And people are just putting on the side the little details that are making the big difference in Jerusalem. And the less things that you need to take care of, you need to see, that's where the real thing is. That's what makes it more bigger. So less is more.
If I can describe Jerusalem in one word, I would absolutely say unity. The people in Jerusalem, they're already having the life of partnership here. It's how the extremists on both sides, which if you remember, I already said that they are minority, but they are more vocal, presenting as if there isn't partnership and unity. But among the majority of the citizens of Jerusalem and Israel, this unity and partnership exist. Shutfut, partnership, sharaki. It's all the same word, different languages. But it happens here. We have countless stories every day. Stop believing everything you see on social media. Stop believing everything you see on the media. The reality is different. And if you want to literally see the truth, I have one proposal for you. Come and visit Jerusalem. Come and visit Israel.
It's been said throughout history that what stays in darkness multiplies in darkness, but what we can put into the light will continue to shine a light into the future. When you keep things in the dark, they don't have an opportunity to influence culture in a positive or negative way, but when you consistently shine a light on something, that is what sets the tone for culture. Media today is so focused on highlighting division and anger and conflict and making an other of everybody who is different from you. But imagine if we could use it as a tool to shine a light on peace, on humanity, on finding love for one another. And working on this project has been such a powerful reminder for me that not only do we have the opportunity to do that, we have a responsibility to. The more media and those with the loudest microphones and the loudest voices in culture try to divide us, the more we have a chance to try to tell a different story and to give a promise to the future.
Not me, like literally crying watching this movie for the 50th time in my entire life. I hope that you guys loved this film. I've been working on this project since September, writing and planning and getting all the interviews done, doing a whole week of filming in November in the beautiful city of Jerusalem, then all of the heavy editing on the other side. It has been quite the project, quite the undertaking, and something that I never dreamed I would have the ability to do or the privilege to do. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for everyone who participated as an interviewee in sharing your story on the ground in Jerusalem for what your life is like. Thank you to our incredible Israeli documentary film crew that was able to bring this magic to life in a way that literally was exactly what I was envisioning in my head on the screen. It was such a privilege getting to work with these guys and get to know what their life is like behind the scenes and in between filming opportunities as well. Thank you to Sarel for organizing all of the logistics and everything company-wide in Israel. Thank you to Turning Point for making this possible, and my team at TPUSA who did a phenomenal job producing and writing and editing alongside me throughout the last few months. I am just unbelievably grateful to everyone, but especially to each and every one of you who took the time to watch this film with us today, to give us your thoughts, your reactions, your hopes and dreams and surprising things that you learned in our live chat throughout the film today. I will do kind of what you guys want to do, whether or not you want me to keep this up as a live stream or we can take the live stream down and re-upload this as a video. I haven't quite decided. We might do both, depending on what platform we are watching on. But these projects and these films and even these live streams, none of them would mean anything unless you all took the time to watch and to engage with this content. And I feel unbelievably grateful, there I go crying again, that this is my job and that this is what I get an opportunity to do every day, having conversations that the loudest voices don't want us to have. And I take that responsibility incredibly seriously. I would love to do more films like this one, focused on American subjects, other international subjects, etc. But I am really, really glad that my very first documentary I ever got to make was in my favorite country outside of the United States, in Israel, and is telling such an important story that the world deserves to hear. We are going to be transitioning at this point over to locals, to our community over there. I dropped the link in the chat for you guys to join us over on the locals side of things for a little post film Q&A about the making of the movie, my thoughts on the people that I got to meet along the way, what was the most surprising thing, or anything else that you guys just want to talk about, have a little discussion. So click that link in our live chat right now if you are watching on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, or on Getter. Would love to have you guys come join us over on Locals. There's a couple people already watching, about a dozen of you already over there on Locals, and would love to take your guys' questions and continue the amazing story. Thank you so much to everybody dropping all of your kind words in our chat. Spartan says, wonderful film. Harry E says, keep up the great work. John Carver says, amazing production. And John, thank you for your donation in our super chat. Surya, Josiah, everybody has just said the kindest words throughout this entire experience, and I really appreciate your guys' support across platforms with such a powerful project that I got to undertake. We're gonna go for a little bit of a break here for just a couple of minutes, then we were going to come back only on Locals, exclusively on Locals, so hit that link in the chat if you guys haven't already, and join us over there for our post-film Q&A. Love you all very, very much, and I will see you back for our stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, and God bless you.